transmission in that truck. But right now, I just need something that's going to run and drive. So there's some stuff that I could do that's a relatively cheap fix. First of all is this fuel line, which is all Tygon. Yeah, that should be enough. I had like basically no spare hose line stuff laying around, and I consider this to be almost as valuable as fasteners in terms of. Another thing I got is this nifty little fuel filter that's glass, you can see through it, and that'll tell you if you've got flow going through your fuel system. Basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to replace the line, the flexible line, going from the hard line that comes out of the mechanical fuel pump. I'm going to replace the fuel filter. I'm going to replace that line that goes into the carb. I hope that's enough just to get it going, because right now I don't see any fuel in this at all, and so there's a blockage before that. If it's not just a blockage that's before that, then maybe it's the fuel pump itself, at which point I have one. This is actuated by a mechanism off the, I'm not sure if it's the camshaft or it's the crank, but it pumps fuel in a very reliable, low pressure way up to the carb. And so it would kind of surprise me if the mechanical fuel pump had somehow broken, just because these designs are so simple. I just would really be surprised if that was the case. But I have this anyway. It's relatively cheap. I think I got it for $30 off Amazon. So I'm going to take this line off here. I'm going to replace this hose because it's cracked and broken and undersized. And I'm going to replace this fuel filter, this inline fuel filter. So this is the input, and that looks pretty dry. So fuel wasn't even getting there. One thing that could be happening is looking down at this line, moving it around, and I could have crimped it. So it doesn't appear to be completely shut off, but it could just be enough that it creates enough back pressure that fuel doesn't get through. So I'm going to bend that. I'm going to leave this off. I'm going to crank it and see if it shoots gas. Alright, I'm going to crank the engine, and I want to see if fuel spurts out of this. So, apparently nothing. Just follow this down. You can see line goes here, goes underneath this alternator bracket, comes down right here, goes into the fuel pump. So to replace the fuel pump, so here's the fuel line, and I don't think it is really clogged. I don't think it's clogged, and I don't think it was pinched or crimped either. This appears to be bone dry. I mean, it's not really. Well, what I'm going to try to do is I'm going to take carb cleaner and I'm going to spray carb cleaner in this end of it, and if it sprays out the other end, then we know that this line's fine. That line's good. And all my parts just fell off the truck. So an interesting thing I noticed in this is the fuel pump had a lot of what appears to be like the red oil assembly lube stuff that you put on a cam. It's all over it, and I don't know if that's just left over from when the cam was inserted, or if maybe this engine has a cam in it. Weird. This is some mystery motor. I don't expect a lot of performance out of it, but I put a little bit of assembly lube on this one too. And I got a new gasket here. Here's the new fuel pump. I'm just going to drop it in. Drop it in as the... So here's a fun little trick. The rod that goes against the cam that operates the lever for the diaphragm pump, for the fuel pump, it falls against this plate, which is there to help hold it in. So the trick is take like a piece of metal. In this case, I have an old used Sawzall blade that I can stick in there to help hold the piston out of the way, or that rod out of the way. I'll hold that connecting rod out of the way, and then I will slip the lever of the fuel pump in behind it. So the next challenge is to get it threaded in there. You gotta fight spring force to get the thread started. Once you get the thread started, you're good. So I'm doing a hodgepodge of things here to get this to work. I hope you can see this. This is the blade that I put in there to help hold the connecting rod back, which is so far succeeding. I put a longer bolt in here. Now everything on this small block Chevy is a 3/8-16 coarse SAE thread. So I just had a number of those bolts left over from when I was assembling the 283, and I've got this one threaded because in wrestling around with it, the bolt that I actually want in there is a lot shorter and I couldn't get it to start. So at least this gets it aligned, and I'm going to try to get the other one started, and then I'm going to cinch it down. I'll pull this out and then I'll replace that one. So I had to use a longer bolt to get there. So you can see I've got a stainless steel hex head bolt here with an aluminum spacer to just get me enough bite in there to push it down. And then I did finally manage to get one of the regular bolts in on this side, and now I've got it close to the block. So now I'm going to take this guy out. Both these bolts are tight. It only took like 9 years. The next part is to replace this hose and get the fuel line hooked up. Alright, there's fuel going, it's leaking. See it? Definitely fuel. Boom. Okay, I'm spitting fuel everywhere. Holy crap, it's working. Alright, it's leaking fuel everywhere, but I'm going to try to run it anyway and just see what I can get away with here. It doesn't stall. Oh, that carb and fuel pump, that's it, man. Holy crap. Okay. Let's try it. Oh, so much better. Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh, this thing drives now. Oh, so much better. So I tightened up all these connections. I think these hose clamps in the tube is a little bigger than I need it to be. And down there, the main fuel out line was leaking a little bit. I tightened that. I think I stopped the fuel leak, so that is great. Now let's see if we can go to the hardware parts store. Alright, the brake still pulls really bad, but I'm going to try to just drive down to the hardware store. Yeah. Oh my gosh, it just runs so much better. Still a little brake is pretty bad. Something smells like a brake. Maybe an e-brake? Something smells. I got a seat brake. Well, it runs again.